Okay. Right. How can I take this back to the top? Right. I'm trying to reposition this. This. Okay. Can everybody see that the reading? Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I wanted to do. Kokyung, can you take the reading for us?
Sure.
Job chapter 1.
Okay. There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil. And there were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. His substance also was 7,000 sheep, and 3,000 camels, and 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 she-asses, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the east. And his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and to drink with them. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, "It may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." Thus did Job continually. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, "Whence comest thou?" Then Satan answered the Lord and said, "From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it." And the Lord said unto Satan, "Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and eschewed evil?" Then Satan answered the Lord and said, "Doth Job fear God for naught? Hast thou made an hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face." And the Lord said unto Satan, "Behold, all that he hath is in thy power, only upon himself put not forth thine hand." So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. And there was a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And there came a messenger unto Job and said, "The oxen were plowing, and the asses feeding them beside. And the Sabaeans fell upon them, and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee." Whilst he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, "The fire of God is fallen from heaven, and hath burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee." While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, "The Chaldeans made out 3 bands, and fell upon the camels, and have carried them away, yea, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee." While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, "Thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness, and smote the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee." Then Job arose, and rent his mantle, and shaved his head, and fell down upon the ground, and worshipped, and said, "Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." In all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly.
Amen. Um, that is that is it's a wonderful reading, especially thinking about the trials of our time. What I'm going to do, I'll give a brief comment of what I experience or perceive from this reading, especially interpreting it to our time today. And then I'll give each person a time to share something about what they feel or what they uh, also perceive from this reading, because from each one of us, we can learn something. And so in this situation, you have, Job, who was a faithful servant of God, richly blessed by God. And, God came to the devil who was walking up and down the earth. When God asked him, "Where have you come from?" He said, of course, he was walking down the earth. In other words, he's appreciating or um, coveting what is not his, like it says in the Ten Commandments, "Thou shalt not covet what is not yours." He's envious of the creation that God has given to mankind. And so when God tells him about Job, of course, God tells him, Satan replies and says, "Oh, because of all the hedges you have put around him, I mean, you protected him. And that's why he's faithful to you." And so God throws down the challenge, and we can see the suffering begins around him. And he begins to lose the possessions that he has been given by God. And as he loses all this, then what is going to happen to him? What's going to happen to his faith? What's going to happen to his relationship with God? Because according to Satan, he believes that it's because of all these possessions that he keeps his faith and keeps his relationship with God. So, and Satan's challenge is, what is going to happen to Job if he loses all these things? And when I look about what is happening to us today in the world, we are more or less in that kind of position whereby a pestilence has fallen upon us, and people are being rendered economically inactive. And because of this, people are losing material possessions. But not only material possessions, there are people who are losing loved ones, just like Job also lost his loved ones. Now, what is going to happen to the people in the midst of these trials and tribulations? So we look upon our neighbors and we look upon ourselves first, and then of course our nation. And we can see this as a very serious trial, because we are in the midst of this trial. But this is not something that is going to last for a couple of months. It's like you've had an accident. When you have an accident, the whole process takes maybe a matter of seconds, and the deed is done. And then after that, then you have to deal with the damage that has come out of the accident. And healing after that sometimes can take months, sometimes it can take years. So it's like humanity right now has suffered a hit. We've suffered an accident, we've been hit. But the healing after that is nobody knows how long it's going to take. But everything is dependent upon our faith in the will of humanity. But that faith has to come from our love for God. Without our love for God, then it's going to be a very long and arduous journey for mankind to recover from this accident. Because there are people, it's like this period is something like I'd never ever witnessed before. Right in my neighborhood, they're building the biggest mortuary I ever saw in my life, a huge one. I think it's going to take thousands of people of deceased. And of course, and not so far again down the road, we now have the Nightingale Hospital in London, which is going to take 4,000 patients. something I never witnessed before in my life. So no matter how we look at it, what's going on right now is a history changing, history turning moment. And from this reading, I can say it's a Job experience moment whereby we are all being put under great trial. And what is going to come out of this trial, or how each and every one of us come out of this trial, is going to be directly related to our relationship with God, our faith in Him, because that is where our faith in humanity and our faith and confidence in being able to pull out of this with each other is going to come from. So it's a time when we really have to, especially the Christian brethren, have to take the opportunity to give courage to mankind. Recently, there was a vicar from the Church of England who took his what can I say, his sound equipment and went down the streets next to his vicarage and just started singing Amazing Grace and asked the people who locked up in their homes to come out and sing along with him Amazing Grace. And I think we have also seen people singing online. But of course, all the singing that people do online is not a singing to. I've yet to see people sharing singing with God. I mean, praise God, and so there's a lot that is happening right now. But this is a message of hope, and I'd like to say that Job's reading today communicates exactly that much to each one of us. But I'd like also to give a chance to somebody else to share. Next, I'm going to ask Kokian, and then after that, if Calvin comes back, then William, and then we go to Kumie, and Marcus is going to close. Just to give a short, even if it's 1 minute or 2 minutes, give a short comment about experience about reading today. And while you give a short comment, you can also share your experience over the last couple of weeks about what is going on. What is your feeling about whatever the situations that we're experiencing now? If you have any fears, what are your fears? If you have any hopes, what are your hopes? So, okay, next I'll ask Kokion to share with us.
So I guess for me, the reading, like you said, definitely shows, and the King has been saying, if you think about what the King has said over the last few weeks, either during Sunday service or through the King's report, it initially started about being prepared for what's to come. That the coronavirus is a judgment on the world, or the first of many potential judgments on the world, for the cosmic falling of the Hun Mother. And then the message changed from not just being prepared, but also using this as an opportunity to spread the word of God, to essentially help people around you, within your community or your friends, to connect back to God. And I think for me personally, it's been a good time where, when you've been so busy doing your work, going to work, training, or whatever else, we often forget about the need to build and establish a relationship with God, something that I know the King has also been preaching about for quite a while. What working from home has allowed me to do is to listen to the King's reports live, as opposed to in the evenings, or because sometimes when I come in late, I often don't watch the King's report. But working from home over the last couple of weeks has allowed me to do that. And I think because I haven't really been going out, to be honest with you, I've just been staying at home, and at some point it does start hitting your mental resilience by staying at home and not, because my mum's gone back to the US. So when Trump announced that the UK would be banned from coming into the US, my mum went the day after. So I'm pretty much home alone. I have been home alone for the last 2 to 3 weeks, and it does test your resilience to a certain extent. But I think because I've been trying to connect back to God even more than I have been previously, it has definitely helped. You start seeing the value in things more than just, what you have in terms of material things. So for me, definitely, this reading resonates because the last couple of weeks for me have been about trying to establish that relationship with God, and by doing so, essentially receiving comfort. So not necessarily riches or anything else, just having a peaceful mindset during that period. That for me has definitely helped.
If I may ask a question, are you working from home or do you have to go to work each day?
So before it got worse, I think it was a week before it got really bad, I was going into work, and then my company were basically trying to fix the IT system so that more and more people could work from home. So what the initial plan within my company was that our department would be split into Team A and Team B. So Team A were required to work in the office on the first week, and then Team B were working from home, and then we'd alternate each week. So I was fortunate in the sense that I was in the first group to work from home. And then on the Wednesday, because the numbers started going up really high, the company decided everyone, unless you were essential, had to work from home. So by God's grace, I've been working from home continuously over the last 2 weeks and not having to go out. I've been fortunate in the sense that I haven't had to go to the shops as well. So in that sense, I've been blessed.
And do you experience a lot of interference when you have to work online? Do you experience a lot of
So from the company initially a little bit. So the servers couldn't take the numbers of people working from home. So they asked people like myself to log in before 8 and after 6 p.m. So essentially outside of the working hours. But now that they've managed to fix it a little bit so that I can work from home whenever, as in I can log in whenever. So there's no restrictions now, which is quite good. But it didn't really affect my delivery or my output. It just meant I had to be more diligent around timing, but yeah, it was fine. Jacob, can't hear you.
Sorry, I muted my microphone. Thank you, Brother Kokion, for sharing. As I said, we are sharing our inspiration on what we received on today's reading on the book of Job. Whether it's something that inspired your mind, stimulated memory, or helped you to link up with what is happening today, whether you have fears or whether you have hopes for what is to come, whether you have something to share for 1 minute or 10 minutes, you're welcome. Next, I'd like to ask Brother William. We haven't met for a long time. I think the last time I saw Brother William was when we met at the cafe at the Baker, was it next to near Paul's? Yeah, Paul's Cafe, Baker Street. Brother William, can you share something with us?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, Brother William, I can hear you.
Okay. I can share my misery if you want.
Okay.
These are very strange times. And from a selfish point of view, or self-centered. I had health problems a year ago. I had a disease on my spinal cord, so I had an operation, and that left me in walking, and I can run. And 3 weeks ago, my little dog diagnosed with a tumor. So he's 12 years old, but I'm very fond of him. So that was heartbreaking. And then the whole situation with the virus is, a few months ago, I went into depression, and at least I had my friends that I see 3 times a week, and we get together and we go out and we talk. But now we can't do that, so I don't have that support. I've been listening to the King, and I've been zooming these friends, so that helps. But I'm the type of person that I go crazy inside the house because I need to do things. I'm always out. So, like I said, this is probably not just my a personal, the worst personal situation, because a lot of people are suffering much, much more. But that helps you for a little bit, and then you start feeling sorry for yourself again. And I personally have to find feelings of despondency, apathy, laziness, and mild despair that I cannot. I'm very willful. I want to do things and I can't, and I want to buy to replace the paint and the painting a little bit, and you can't. So I'm not the most patient person in the world, and also I carry a lot of resentment and anger against Jahan, and on a daily basis, especially when I see all the news coming from this crazy family federation led by the wife of Satan. So that poisons my heart. But I try to share, I try to listen to the King, I try to pray at night, and I share in Facebook as well all my against this situation. And you get people that say that you're crazy, you're talking rubbish, so you talk back, and I sometimes the lines in people, but that's my temperament. I just can't help it. I'm not goody to shoes. I have faith in the King, but I'm not exactly the poster boy for the church. I have to fight personal shortcomings on a daily basis, but I just thank God for him, Richard Panzer and Kerry Williams and Tim Elder and all these the truth, because we are against the enemy that is destroying the truth at the moment. And believe it or not, that's the wife of the Messiah is fighting the truth and denying it. That's very, 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 very sad. But I leave it there. But God bless you all, and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, William, for sharing. It's wonderful to see you, wonderful to listen to what you have to say. I mean, it's a difficult path, but as you were talking, I was just thinking about Job actually, because Job went through so many trials. You can, if you are to think about Job's frame of mind when he was going through these trials, because the Bible, it talks about his faith and his triumphant faith, and that is really the message that we get when we read Job's story. But if you have to think about what his mental journey, we can really understand that he must have gone through hell and back He must have gone through depression. He must have gone through situations whereby he was despondent, he felt hopeless, but somehow he was always able to pull himself through and keep his faith and trust that no matter what happened to him, he would be okay, things would be okay, and that he's holding on to on to God's love, on to his relationship with God was the most important thing. So thank you, Brother William, for holding on and being strong. And we pray that your illness, uh, you will recover valiantly from it, and also for the young boy that he can be okay. And we are all in this journey together. We pass through this world. Recently, the king has been saying that we all, I mean, we are 100%, each and every one of us is 100% guaranteed to leave this world at some point and go to the spirit world. So the question is not about how or when we are going to leave this world, but the question is, how are we living our lives each and every day through each and every trial? And the king has really been emphasizing that. And I remember True Father also was emphasizing that during the World Peace Tours, emphasizing that the question is not about when we leave this earth, because we are all going to leave it at some point. It's about, and not how we live it, but it's about how we live our lives every day. And that is what this virus, this very tiny thing, we cannot see it with our eyes, but it's scaring everybody. So, and it's supposed to bring us back to that realization that because we've been running around this world, sometimes completely forgetting about our Heavenly Father. But this tiny virus has to bring us back to our senses. And it has to make us realize that actually, how am I living with my Heavenly Father each and every day? How am I relating with Him? And how am I, even in my sometimes sorry, sometimes not so sorry situation, how am I contributing to His joy and happiness through my life? So yeah, it is a great time. You know, many times we look at history and we read the history, we say, oh, those so and so, Moses was in this situation, or Charlemagne was in that situation, or this happened to the Roman Empire at that time, or the Great Depression was like this. But today we are right in the middle of it, right in the middle of it. And now we can truly understand through our own circumstances and what we are seeing around us, experiencing around us, a little bit of what the past experienced, because today we are much more fortunate in that we have much better systems. We have better technology, we have better treatment systems, but still the suffering is there because we separated from, I mean, because of what we have not done according to God's will, the suffering is still there. What the handmother has, the failures of the handmother, the suffering is there. Recently, my wife was explaining to me. She said, "You know what? When True Father passed away, actually, what killed him was pneumonia." And then she said, "Actually, you know, this sickness that is coming today, this virus, is entering people's body and causing them to die by pneumonia." And she told me, "You know, the world is paying indemnity, and many are going to go through the experience that True Father went through as he left this earth." And I thought about it and I say, wow, that really is true. You know, that really is true. So this illness is truly, nobody can say it's not a judgment. It is a judgment. And like when Jesus died, you find that many Christians went through suffering. Many were crucified. Anyway, the way of death was physical injury for many Christians. Today, you find this virus, which is attacking thousands around the world, is attacking the lungs of individuals. That is how true Father Lord of Second Advent left this world. And because of the error of our hard mother, you find that people's lungs are being attacked because humanity has to pay indemnity for failing the Lord of Second Advent. But we have to pray for each other. We have to keep safe, pray for each other, so that we can, we all want to live for as long as we can, serve God for as long as we can. Because I remember when True Father, the last time he came to the UK, and then we met him, I think it was at the hotel where he was living. And he was talking about, at that time, he was talking about what is the best way to leave the world. And he was demonstrating how we should fly away, how we should fly away from this world. He's saying you should fly upright, you know. So, and that was the last time we saw him in the United Kingdom. And after that, of course, we didn't see him again. But he was saying goodbye to us in a way when the last time he visited United Kingdom. So yeah, with that, I'd like to ask Kumie. We haven't seen you for a while. Can you share something with us?
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Morning.
Hi.
Hi, hi.
Hi. Yeah, I mean, I'm managing all right. Just, yeah, haven't seen you so long.
Yeah.
Glad, oh, I don't know who's this brother, William. Haven't seen him before, but well, nice to see you, everybody.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Anyway, yeah, when I was off for 2 weeks now, and then yeah, I feel a bit depressed at the beginning because cannot go out much, and then wondering what will happen. But anyway, it's getting nice weather now, so we try to go out for a walk at least once a day with my husband. And also, I have allotment just down the road. It's very near, only a few minutes walk down there. So it's time to be ready for the growing some seeds and vegetables. So yeah, keep me busy with some housework and doing allotments. Yeah, but yeah, 100 years ago, had a Spanish flu, and then I heard so many people killed at that time, and that was the father was born year, and I felt the God was telling to humankind, you be prepared for receive Messiah at that time, but even father can live for over 90 years and try to tell to world what his mission is, but it's not so many people recognize who father was, and then the father was keep saying about judgment, and while father was on this earth, I didn't feel that was judgment, and I was thinking, if judgment must be like Noah's after the flood judgment like that, but I never felt that this is a judgment, and and then when this coronavirus started spreading to the world, I felt this is God's judgment. Yeah, and then of course the second king Hyungdin said this is judgmental period. Yeah, so I was a bit worried, what will happen to me if I catch that virus. I might die or I might survive. But I was just thinking, well, if God needs my life in the spiritual world, then maybe He will take me. Or if He still needs me on this earth, then He might to survive at this time. So anyways, my responsibility is, try to keep safe and then keep fit for my health. Yeah, so I just pray every day for the Second King's family and King's family and all the sanctuary church members. Yeah, at least members should be safe. Yeah, so I'm okay. Just everyone, you should keep well as well, and hopefully see you soon again. Yeah, let's see.
Thank you. Thank you. Just a question. I'm wondering whether in your area, when you go out for a walk, are there so many people on the streets? And if there is a park near you, are there many people at the park, or are the police active in asking people to go back home?
No, I haven't seen any police.
Yeah.
And then when we walk out, go to work, it's not so many people, but even we meet people, make sure we keep distance at least 2 meters. And then yesterday went out, and then quite many people in the park because maybe weekend, and might be more today. So I tried not to go out today. Maybe go to allotment instead to dig soil. Yeah, but and then yeah, when this virus started. The Nozick Park Hospital, which is my area hospital, was the highest patients was in there. I heard, and then our area, especially this Reynolds Lane area, has a lot of Indian family. It's like with parents, with elderly people. I think that's the reason many elderly people went to hospital. So that's their highest. But I heard it's Barnet area is the highest now. Yeah, yeah. So many people had even our road. This area I heard from our next door website. I have a website in neighbor, and then we communicate each other, and I get information from them. And even my neighbor very close also somebody had infected. So it's quite dangerous this area as well.
Wow.
But anyway, I'm not afraid of it.
Yes.
I'm just trying to keep fit myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kumye. The message, do not be afraid. I remember the last time we had a meeting with Brother Christian. I don't know if anyone has heard from Christian, because we know that he had caught the virus. And his message was, have hope, do not be afraid. So
Yeah.
that is the attitude each and every one of us must have.
Yeah.
Usually when talking about this situation to Christians who understand Bible Christian history, I usually talk about the pestilence when the Jewish people had to paint the lamb of the blood of a lamb on their doorpost, so that the pestilence would not attack their family. And there are those who are doubting and those who are believing. So the believers painted their doors with this blood, and they were saved. So it's the same thing with this COVID situation, because we remember that when it started, the king was very, very stern and serious about it. But when the President Trump spoke about it, he was saying, "Oh, it's just like the flu; it's going to pass." And Boris Johnson had the same kind of attitude. "Oh, it's just that it's going to pass." And of course, I think one of the reasons was that we never got accurate information from China about what really happened there.
Yeah.
So everybody was thinking it's just like the flu. But then when the statistics started building up in the West, then people realized, wow, this thing is not a joke. It is serious. And so we can see President Trump change his tune, Boris Johnson changed his tune, and now we are where we are. So yeah, it is a pestilence, and a pestilence of we can compare it to what happened at Moses' time. We can compare it to the flood judgment, and there is no knowing what is going to happen, because we can't even tell how we are going to get out of this situation of quarantine and self-isolation. And of course, as Komia said, the best thing is take care of yourself, protect yourself, take care of yourself, be careful who you meet, who sometimes we we have to avoid friends. It's painful.
Mhm.
We have to avoid friends, even family members.
Yeah.
We have to avoid them, you know, because if your family member has not been with you for the last couple of weeks, or even for the last month, and they want to visit you, you don't know where they've been. You don't know whether they might be carrying the pestilence. So it is a wow. I mean, I can't imagine. It's crazy. Yeah, it's a period of great judgment, really.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they want kimchi,
Yeah.
kimchi, but they cannot come here, so they cannot. They try to make it themselves, but this is
Oh.
they miss
But
my kimchi. Then.
kimchi is good. The king was telling us kimchi is good, you know.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the rate of death in Korea, you find, I mean, it was low hundred. I mean, so looks like the diet there might have helped the people there. Of course, we don't know whether it is that Europe received a different kind of strain. We don't know. That is yet to be revealed in future. But yeah, kimchi is good. It's good too. It's good for the, what do you call it?
Yeah.
The upper respiratory tract area. Next, I'd like to invite brother Marcus to share something with us.
Hi everyone.
Hey.
How are you? I'm happy to see everyone.
Yeah.
So it's been about 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and for the first week I tried to stay indoors. I mean, I have a back garden, so it was all right. And but for this past week, actually, I thought I started skateboarding every day. So I'd go out for about 2 hours. Actually, because in my dreams I'm skateboarding, and I feel as if it's the Holy Spirit giving me encouragement that I can do it. So every day I do it, and everywhere is a ghost town. There's just no one there besides the supermarkets, and you just see people lining up, and so I've been enjoying doing that instead of staying home and getting fat. I just feel I have to do it, and if I can respond to Kyuk Young, I was thinking about Mrs. Lee, because I heard she went to America, and I thought that's she's definitely, the Holy Spirit is definitely given her guidance, because it seemed just before, when Father crossed the 38th parallel, before the American soldiers closed the border, it felt just like that. So I understand she wants to be with her family, so I think that was quite amazing. Although I'm sure you miss your family as well on the other side. But yeah, I connect with the Job reading, because his story is that he was rich and he had everything taken away. Actually, I'm not sure if you can see, but I've been doing some DIY. So I've had to move some of my property out of the room. Actually, it's very liberating to have just bare minimals. It's such a mental relief. Yeah, I was out for a walk last week as well, and I was listening to music, and I just started crying, because I thought it's just such a the spirit is well, it's very tyrannical what the government is doing, so I felt overwhelmed. And they say one form of exercise, but I thought my liberty comes from God, not from snow snorting Michael Gove. So I went home and got my skateboard and went out for a second form of exercise. Well, yeah, that's about it, I guess. I was working at Burger King for 6 months, but so they sent me home, but I'm still employed technically, this new form of employment.
Thank you, brother Marcus.
Sure, thank you.
that last statement you say, this new form of employment, that is, I mean, that statement is loaded. It's loaded because the action Western governments have been forced to take is likely to force the nations into a socialist system. I mean, sleepwalking into a socialist system. Um, yeah, so that's why, wow, it is quite worrying, everything that is going on. And I know for young people like Marcus, usually because I stopped working about a week ago because anyway, everything just closed down. So we had to put down our tools and stop. But when you are used to physical activity, moving up and down, it's very difficult to stay in one place. So I take time to go to the park for a walk. But what I notice, I mean, of course, with my family, but what I notice at the park is that there are many young people, and they don't keep the guidance of not more than two. You find these young people gather in groups of three, four, five, six, and there is a sense of among young people of thinking, oh, I'm young, I'm strong, this thing is not going to affect me, and I maybe that's why they take that attitude. But the thing is that when they transmit it to more vulnerable people, that's where the danger comes in. And that's one thing that is upsetting personally, is when to see these young people gathering in large groups of four or five and thinking, but these people, they really don't care about uh, the consequences of what their actions might do. I know it is difficult uh, for you, Marcus, just to be holed up, indoors, because you have a lot of energy. Young people, by the nature of their age, have so much energy, and that spirit of adventurism. They want to discover so many things. They want to be out all the time. So it's not easy. So yeah, congratulations. But as you say, you're learning new skills, doing decoration. So I think that's quite liberating, to learn new skills. And but Marcus, how is it in your area, Milton Keynes? Is it are the authorities active in trying to
Oh, yeah.
encourage young people to be indoors?
I forgot to mention. So every single day when I went out, besides yesterday, I saw police every single time. Um, and the day before yesterday, I saw them, and I decided to go away, not to go through them. So they were out in force, I'd say. I mean, because usually you wouldn't see them walking around, actually, but I did see them. But yesterday I chose to go out more in the evening, so I think that's why I didn't see them. So yeah, I always have an argument in my head.
Yes.
This is my one form of exercise, but I don't actually want to put myself in a situation where I have to argue, because you can't argue with the police, basically. So yeah, every single day I've always been a meter away from them, but I haven't done anything. I like to think because they think I'm cool, so they don't want to talk to me about it, don't they? I'm not sure if it's a matter of time, but as I say, I take it day by day, and every night I'm dreaming I'm skating, so I think, okay, that means I can skate today. But I take what you say at heart. You say, as a young person, we don't always think how we affect, like, the elderly. because obviously I live with my parents and I have to be minded about them.
Yeah, another thing I'd like to, I'm just curious, Kumye and Kukyang, when you guys go out, do you always wear masks
No,
Yes,
today?
always.
no, I'm not.
Okay, because I know like in the East, they're very serious about using masks, and this protects other, for example, because we have what you call the asymptomatic carriers who have the virus but they may not know, and they have to protect those who might not, who might be around them. So that's why it is good to wear masks. So I remember when, I mean, reading, not remember, but reading about the Spanish flu, it was killing millions until they realized that they have to use masks. And when they started using masks, then the rate of death started dropping dramatically. So masks are important, and well, for I believe, well, they say that if you're not, if you're not sick, it will not it is unlikely to protect you from getting the virus. But the thing is that if someone has the virus, at least because of the droplets, it can stop the droplets from dropping. But but then at least even if you cannot catch, I believe it reduces it by a certain percentage if someone wear a mask from, you know, getting the virus. So
I mean, the question, Jacob, is this, right?
yes,
The masks are not important for those who don't have coronavirus.
yes,
Why is it everyone in the medical field treating coronavirus patients are wearing them?
good. That's a good point.
If the point is wearing a mask is of no use to those who are healthy,
Yes,
and the argument, I guess, would be, well, because it's in the droplets, people with coronavirus, if you're in the medical field, you're in close proximity, blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
So they were then wearing a mask and the visors and everything else.
yes.
I thought of using one, and I can't get it anywhere. The shops are out of it. I don't know where to get them.
It's one of those where I think now you have to order on places like Amazon, and then you have to wait for about a month. That's only the
A
turnaround.
month. I'll be dead by then.
So I managed to get some before everyone started rushing towards face masks. But it has two uses. One is, you have to go for a certain standard of masks because not all the masks will be as effective in terms of helping. But also, like Jacob said, if you are symptomatic but not showing, then by you coughing or by you talking, it prevents the amount of droplets that you release in the air. And they also did some research in Japan where they got some of these special cameras to look at how much air droplets were in the air when you sneeze, when you cough, when you're talking. And for enclosed spaces, so typically offices and houses, some of the droplets, if you sneeze, will stay in the atmosphere for about 30 minutes.
Wow.
So you can imagine if you're at home and someone sneezes and they just happen to be a carrier of coronavirus, but they're not aware, then within half an hour, a lot of people are going to be past that particular area. So it is quite important. And one of the reasons why in Korea, apart from the mass testing, is that everyone became very conscious about wearing masks. And therefore, in a way, if you were asymptomatic or you were, you were a sufferer, then, or a healthy person, then it just helped to control the atmosphere a bit. Because obviously, if you're able to recover from it healthily, and you're wearing masks for the 2 weeks to a month, then it means that by the time it's left your system, you're not going to infect anyone anymore at that point. So it does help a lot. And the other thing to bear in mind is actually age is no longer a factor. The initial evidence said age might be the determinant between whether you suffer or whether you are able to recover. In the US, in New York especially, where, as most media are now saying, is the epicenter of corona, the doctors in the ICU units are saying it's no longer an age thing. They're finding very young, healthy people. And one of the ICU doctors I saw on Sky News yesterday said it's like literal hell. And the way he described it was hell like the Bible is the way he described it. And even in somewhere in the US, again, not in New York, but a newborn baby of 6 weeks old died of coronavirus this week.
Yes.
So it's no longer an age thing. We can't say if your age is between 0 to 30, you're likely to survive, because there are more and more people between the age of 20 and 40, statistically now are being shown, are just as affected as someone who's over 60.
Yes, it's a lottery of life and death, really. This lady, I think, it was in Europe, I can't remember, but she's 100 and she survived the virus.
Yeah, 105 lady.
Yeah, that's amazing. And there is a nurse in England, and she's 36 and died from it.
Can I
I just want to say one thing quickly about the virus and Had Jahan in all this promotion and this Vision 2020, Vision 2020. And God said, well, this is the Vision 2020 for you and your lot. A disaster, a plague. That's your Vision 2020. You know, it comes to my mind. A lot of things come to my mind. I bet to all of you as well.
Yeah.
Judgment, Vision 2020. They're all lies trying to cover up the truth. Vision 2020, the truth that Father set up very, very clearly for all humanity, forever and ever, and they're trying to destroy it. Aware or unaware of it, I cannot understand intelligent people. I'm not saying humble people that are probably very ignorant, but intelligent people in Family Federation that listen to that woman say what she's saying and accepting it. I mean, it has to be deliberate, because no one can be that stupid, theologically speaking, to accept the lies and the pantomimes that she's putting on. It's quite unbelievable. And what about Father? They forgot about Father's legacy and what Father said and how Father behaved and the relationship between Father and the handmother when they were married. She was clearly in the object position, and she's never claimed anything for herself when Father was alive. So she's clearly taking advantage that Father is not here physically. It's outrageous. Anyway, that's me.
Thank you. That's I find. First of all, Marcus, you wanted to say something?
Yes, sorry.
Marcus.
Yeah, I must confess, my opinion is a bit undecided, because if you hear about the deaths, the actual wording says, in many instances, someone died after testing positive for COVID-19, but they had pre-existing medical conditions. So it means they could go up to someone who's dying of cancer, test if they had COVID, find out they do, but in effect they've still died from cancer. Maybe it's been a catalyst. So there's a lot of fear mongering with the figures and the numbers. And I take a step back and think, hold on a second. Many of the instances of people dying, they're dying because of other causes. And yes, there's a correlation that they're positive for COVID-19, okay, but that hasn't been what's actually made them shuffle off this mortal coil. They have health issues, and that's what's making them die.
But Marcus, that's the way they're reporting it in the UK. But in places like Korea and China, in the US, they don't report it like that. So they're not saying every person that's died so far has died as a direct result of an underlying health condition. They're saying there are healthy people who are catching COVID-19 Italy as well. The chief medical officer for one of the hospitals in Italy, when the Sky News reporter said, well, what's your response to people that are saying it's just like a cold? He said, no, this is like pneumonia. It's not a cold. So it's not a case of all the patients in Italy, for example, had an underlying health condition. There were a lot of people that actually caught the coronavirus, had no issues whatsoever, but because of the severity of the virus that developed within them, it's tended to pneumonia, and in some cases, in a lot of cases, it's gone to death. It's the way the UK media are reporting it and the UK government are reporting it, but for the rest of the world, it doesn't seem to be the case. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those where, as the King said during one of the King's report, he said, "Don't be stupid about COVID-19." He said, "Protect yourself and protect yourself well. Don't think it's not going to affect you, because it will." That's why at some point he even stopped. He initially stopped doing the services within Sanctuary because he thought there'll be a lot of people that will. Because it hadn't quite blown up in the US at that point. I think it was about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, where he stopped doing the service within the Sanctuary Church because he felt there'll be some members who would be a bit too relaxed about it. And then he recently changed his mind, saying, actually, this is the time that we need to preach about God and we need to gather as those who believe in God. So that's why he changed it. But, it's one of those where if we believe what the UK government says and takes that as the gold standard, that's where we'll make a mistake. We just need to be observant of what's happening across the world, because when you do look at the US, especially where they've got, they're coming to, the numbers in the US have gone way past China. A lot of those cases are not people that had an underlying health condition. They've just caught coronavirus from someone. And the deaths are not being reported as even the as part of the, because I tried to watch the daily White House briefings, and there's no mention of, we're okay because all of these guys have underlying health conditions that passed away. It's a case of, be smart about this, just keep socially distant, and then you won't overwhelm the medical system in the US. There is no mention of underlying health conditions whatsoever.
Yeah, that's well said. I know many people who have the same kind of attitude or conclusions that Marcus just shared with us. Even President Trump initially had the same kind of conclusions, or should I say, interpretations. But then President Trump, in his testimony, said he changed his mind when somebody he knew so well went into hospital saying that he was only slightly ill. The next day, the guy was in a coma. And not only that, I've spoken to quite a few people who were of the opinion, this is just like a flu, this thing is going to pass. But the moment somebody, a loved one, passes away because of this illness, because I think I can say I know a couple of people whose loved one passed away because of this illness, they are in a state of shock and in a state of disbelief for their lax attitude to the dangers posed by this virus. But not only that, when I saw the mortuary being, of course, it's a temporary mortuary, but it's massive and it's built in a park. That has never happened before through all my life in the United Kingdom, and even knowing United Kingdom history. I never read somewhere that United Kingdom had built such a massive mortuary. It means that this virus is actually killing people. But even if you think that people might be dying because of underlying health conditions, that person has loved ones. And that person would have lived maybe another 10 years, another 5 years, another 20 years with their loved ones, if it were not for this virus. Or in other words, this virus is killing people. It is killing people. And the story that it might be, underlying health conditions or whatever it is, that is left media propaganda. Why? Because We are in this situation because the media never communicated the truth of what was going on. If they had, people would have taken a different act, governments would have taken different action, people would have taken different actions if they had said the truth of what's going on. But the media, instead of using their investigation capacity, believed everything that was coming out of China. Yet, uh, I mean, it's crazy. So, young people like Marcus, I know it's easy to believe what the media is saying, but the situation is serious. It's not a joke, it is serious.
I mean, I'll give an example, Marcus. What isn't really being reported in the Western media, and it hasn't been confirmed, but there are a lot of accounts being given by people who have links into China about how the Chinese government actually, at the height of the problem, they actually moved portable incinerators into the Hubei province. And these portable incinerators can burn up to 300 bodies per day, right? And they're saying, or 3,000 bodies a day. And 100 units went into China at the height of the coronavirus in China. And when you also listen to Timelda about the 21 million, phone subscription that suddenly disappeared. Now, I'm not suggesting that 21 million people were killed, but there is a question to be asked, because I mean, the media reporting are saying, oh, these were just subscribers who, left China and therefore they didn't feel that they could keep the subscription anymore, blah, 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 which might be true. A portion of them might be that, but the question does still remain. Every Western country, the governments doubt whether China have properly reported the numbers and whether it is as controlled as they claim it is. But there are accounts of people that know people within China where they're saying literally these incinerators are put into one of these next to an exit door, and then what the doctors are doing is like or some of the officials doing is literally just bringing the body, throwing them in there, and getting them burnt.
Wow.
So I'm not saying it's definitely true, but it's one of those things where we just have to wait and assess read as widely as you can, because if you limit the amount of sources that you're reading and listening from, it can give you a wrong sense of, I guess, perspective on what's going on right now. If even the left-wing media in the US, like the New York Post and New York Times, have doubts about China. I mean, it's quite funny because talk about reviewing the relationship the UK has with China as a direct result of coronavirus, which was reported in the Sky News, and because it came out from Michael Gove as part of the daily briefing on that day, because I sent it to the King. It was on a Monday, so the Sunday the King spoke about making China pay, and then Sky News on Monday reported that US media haven't reported it yet. So I sent it to the King to say macro, and he was really happy to see that. But what was funny was that the BBC had nothing about that at all. There was no news article, there was no headlining, nothing about government reviewing. Senior officials within the government are calling for a review of the relationship with China, because obviously the Huawei 5G network is obviously something that is causing a problem with Trump when it comes to the UK relationship. And so, it was one of those where Sky News reported it, but yet BBC, being the so-called bastion of independence and objectivity of the media in the UK, chose not to run that story. And I went through the website first, couldn't find it, so I Googled it, and nothing came up on Google. So the question is, why not? Right? What is the actual agenda here in terms of why is the BBC not covering it? And when you see then the left-wing media in the US also kind of doing some things which are not as honest and transparent, it does make you think something else is going on in China which isn't being reported.
Also, there's been a lot of misinformation in the beginning, and people, even some governments like Brazil, they were saying, oh, more people die a year from heart attacks, oh, more people die a year from cancer, oh, more people die. So why are we having an emergency then? that we have to have building hospitals, 4,000 beds in London has just been opened. So that we never had to build extra hospitals because people died of cancer and people died of. So it is an emergency. Why they're trying to put this? I don't understand why they say more people die of heart attacks and more people die. Blah, 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 blah.
Well, so far the statistics that is an actual correct statement from a statistical point of view. The problem is the rate of the cases is faster than every other disease. So it's not entirely incorrect to say that more people die from X, Y, and Z.
I know, I understand that, but it's not a valid argument to put out.
It's just at the moment the full picture isn't available. The full picture isn't available because the coronavirus, if you were to believe some of the stories, is a manufactured virus as opposed to a natural virus.
Yes, well, they say it's an animal virus, it's a retrovirus like AIDS, and it came from this part in China.
Yeah.
They have no hygienic conditions and.
No. It's not an animal virus. If you believe some of the stories, it's a manufactured virus from a high-level viral lab in China. So it's not. It didn't come from a marketplace. So, they're calling about bats. This is originating from a bat, but if you were to believe the story that's manufactured, it wasn't from an animal. It was actually deliberately coded within China and then released.
I was thinking yesterday that could be the case. It could be a deliberate act of war.
Yeah.
But is that a bit far-fetched? I was thinking it could.
I mean,
I just retreat and not engage in such a.
Yeah, I mean, everyone at the moment is getting a taste of what extreme socialism / communism looks like, right? And a lot of people are getting affected, and hopefully the good thing that comes out of this is actually socialism is a bad thing for people. They're starting to.
You can't believe anything that comes from China. You cannot believe what they say because it's a completely satanic situation there. From
No.
a government point of view.
I have a colleague who
all the time.
Yeah,
They kill people, they murder people, they incarcerate people, and they sell their organs, and political prisoners have been tortured. And now they hold in a minute silence for all the people that die from the coronavirus.
So I have a colleague whose uncle.
They say.
I have a colleague who's Chinese, and her uncle and great uncle are both physicians, medical people, and they actually were at the forefront, in the front line, just like we have people here, doctors and nurses, trying to develop a cure, trying to find the right treatments for people with coronavirus. And what is actually scarier than what you realize is actually some of these conspiracy theories, so-called, that are coming out, they are not aware of it. But they're not aware of the fact that incinerators are being positioned around the hospital. They're not aware that actually people are being killed even though they're alive. And that just shows you how controlled an environment China is, where you only get to know if you need to know. You don't get to know if you don't need to know. And so my colleague classifies all of these as fake news, because for her, she's saying, well, if my uncle and great uncle doesn't know about it, it can't be true. And I'm saying to you, you've got to be a bit more open-minded than that, because she, unfortunately, has grown up in China. Therefore, she's been programmed to believe the state is a good thing.
Right. Thank you, guys. Now, before we wind up, I'd just like to ask one question for each person to answer. And the question is, as time goes by, in the prevailing conditions or situation, do you feel angry? Do you feel angry? What or who do you feel angry at? And I'd like to start with Marcus.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Do you feel, because of everything that's happening now, especially where we are at the moment because of the damage of the virus, do you feel angry? And if you feel angry, what or who do you feel angry at?
Okay.
Marcus.
I don't know why you asked me to go first. um, no, I can't control what goes on in the world. I can think about it, reflect upon it, have an opinion about it. But ultimately, I'm always angry at myself on some level, because on some level, I'm failing to take responsibility, and that is my biggest judgment. If the state kills me like they do in China, then I'll be with Christ. But my most thing which makes me, what I'm going to have to make an account of in front of any person with spiritually open eyes is my own, to what extent I'm able to pay back Christ in my day-to-day life for what he's done to me. And on a daily basis, I'm accused about this. So I feel it's more of a sadness towards, because that's my situation. That's how I feel. I think in terms of what's going on in the world, I think whoever's planning this is, oh, well, okay, I won't go there, but no, I'll stick to what I just said. Yeah, that's how I feel.
Thank you. Next, Kokan.
So initially, I was quite angry at China, obviously for the fact that what was very clear and I think is accepted is that this virus was actually present around late November, early December. And the fact that they decided not to control the situation back then, because obviously, had they controlled it as in the way that they had controlled Wuhan, then maybe we wouldn't be in the situation that we are today. But then after the king said it is a global condition of a restoration period, then it made me think, okay, maybe it was meant to be then. Maybe this virus was meant to come and we were meant to get through it. So I'm not sure. It's gone from anger to let's wait and see. Let's wait and see, because I think even the king has often spoken about how, he has asked God a question, for example, and he hasn't always got an answer straight away. He's had to wait sometimes even up to a year before God gives him the answer. So for me now, it's more of a let's wait and see what happens. But in the meantime, just make sure that my immune system is up to date, that I'm eating healthy as can be. I'm limiting contact with people and making sure that I'm protected so that when it comes to it, I'm ready to start again.
Great. William.
I tell you how I felt, how I first felt, rightly or wrongly. I am a bit obsessed with Jahan. So naturally, the first feeling I got is that I compare Jahan with the heart of Shilkang, how devoted she was to True Father, and Jahan had that heart towards True Father, and was since his death constantly raising him up and talking all the things he's done for humanity and who he really was, witnessing to the world about my husband is the Lord of the Second Advent. Things would have been so different, and just let Hyun Jin be a successor and get on with it and started the lineage of the kingdom of heaven, and she will sort of step back. We would all be loving her and raising her up as high as True Father. That didn't happen, and I feel, I know that we all fail our responsibilities, so it will be harsh to just blame her and say, oh, it's all her fault, it's all her fault. Well, sometimes we fail our responsibility, but in her case, it's disastrous. It's a human disaster, and I feel in my heart that it's got something to do with that. This is like a judgment on the world, on her. I don't know, but it would have been very, very, very different, completely different. We would be living in a different world if she had the heart of a person like Yang Kang, our real true mother. So I'm very angry at that. I can feel the disappointment of God as well. Well, in a human position, I cannot really feel his heart, but it must be disappointed and devastated that this hasn't gone all the way as it could have been, gone properly all the way without hiccups. It must be very, very, very difficult, but she didn't. She didn't. What's the word for it? She hasn't completed. She failed. She failed. That's how I feel.
Thank you for sharing. What about Kumye?
Yeah, when this virus started in China, and it started spreading to the neighbor country and to the world, and I was quite angry close to China. But also when this virus spread to Korea, and I felt it seems like this virus wouldn't stop in China, maybe it spread to the whole world. So I was telling my husband we needed to prepare, buy mask or at least sanitizer gel. But he was so relaxed and he said, "Oh, don't worry, we don't need a mask on. If you have mask on in Western world, especially in Britain, basically you are the health pro, you got the virus." So because he tried to pursue me, is I'm wrong. So fortunately I bought some mask, but I don't want to wear because he thinks it's okay. But anyway, so that's what I was arguing with my husband for a while, and and he agreed. It's my suggestion was right, but it's too late. I cannot buy mask anywhere now at the moment. So, anyway, I feel this period is, when like Jesus, God has sacrificed Jesus to expand his his religious, which is Christianity, because Jesus couldn't do at his lifetime, and I feel this is a time to tell the world the father's next king of inheritance person is second king Hyungjae-nim. So I feel this is God is telling us, yeah, it's time to recognize. But I don't know, our sanctuary members are too small compared to the world population. Yeah.
Wow, thank you for sharing. Yeah, I can also say that actually at the beginning of the crisis, I felt so much anger at China, particularly the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, because I know I know many good Chinese people. And but after that, my anger then transferred to the way Western governments handle the whole situation. I felt anger at the fact that governments have had to borrow billions of funds to support their communities and societies, and felt anger at the fact that this is going to cause numerous problems in the future for people. And of course, this anger turned into hope that when I realized that this thing is really shaking the world and devastating the world, it then is I realized clearly that God is changing the world. He's using this to change the world. So my anger then turned into hope that when all this is done, when the dust has settled, then there's going to be a new hope whereby God's people can rise up and really begin to shape the future of humanity. So, yes, I have felt angry. Some of that anger still lingers in my heart, but I have a lot of hope that at the end of this, then things are going to be better. Especially, yeah, there's a lot to be upset about. So much to be upset about everything that has gone on when your life is so disrupted and the lives of many people so disrupted. There's a lot to be upset about, but it is a time of hope. But the thing is, it is difficult for those who don't have a relationship with Christ, for those who don't have a relationship with God, to have hope in this period. And that is why the mission of the chosen ones in this period is so important, because it's a mission to bring new hope to humanity and bring new hope to the world. So, as Kumia says, it's unfortunate that we are so few. But even though we are so few, God is depending on these remnants, as the king likes to say, these remnants to communicate a new message of hope for the new world that is definitely going to come. Because whether we like it or not, the world will change. Everything will change. Now, is it going to be, who is going to be victorious? Is it a socialist system that is going to be victorious? Because we are in danger of falling into that kind of system. Satan, when politicians say, never waste a crisis, meaning use every crisis to your benefit, then we must know that the socialists are working very hard to control the situation. So we too have to say, never waste a crisis. So we too must be working very hard to turn the situation into God's victory. We find 60 years after Christ, one man, St. Paul, turned a desperate situation into a victory. So at the end of the day, our numbers might be few, but the idea and the hope, who can give hope in this time? Who can give hope in this age? That's what matters. And that is where all the energy of the universe centering on God is going to go to. And I want to encourage all sanctuary members, let us use our masks, please. Let us use our mask. If you don't have, use your scarf or use something, but use something to protect yourself, because protecting ourselves, that is individual responsibility. That's number one. So if we take every precaution to protect ourselves, make sure we are sensitive about what we touch, who we keep the distance, what we touch, wash our hands all the time, protecting ourselves, then God can keep us safe. Let's all be aware. Let's all be aware. Let's all keep alive, because if we keep alive, we keep God's hope alive in each one of us.
If you don't have a mask, Tim Elder and the King was showing on the King's Report, if you look for or Google the Million Mask Challenge, it has a lot of people that have built their own masks. So you may be able to use some of those videos to make your own if you can't get one professionally made straight away.
Oh, I just had a thought. Yeah, have you ever seen the film V for Vendetta?
Yes.
You know Anonymous, right? The movement Anonymous. They wear these certain masks. I just thought that's something I would have entertained going out with, because it'd be hilarious to see that.
Yes, a mask with the face of Hyun Jin Nim.
That would be great. That would be great. Okay, now I want us to wind up with True Fathers, a message from True Father. And let me see if I can share it on the screen, and then I will ask Brother Marcus to read it for us.
The Chon Seong-gyeong.
Wait, it's Johnson Young, but just hold on, give me 1 minute. Okay. Can you see? Can you read that on the screen?
Yeah, I just need to get rid of people's faces. One sec. There we go.
Yeah.
Right, that's good.
All right.
Jacob, do you know what page this is?
This is
Oh, yeah,
actually
I also have my intro song on.
True Father's Insights, section 4, the reason God cannot punish Satan.
Can you tell me what page number? Or
Yeah, but it's 144.
oh yeah, I've got it here on my screen. Shall I start then? The
Okay.
reason
Yeah. Go ahead.
the reason God cannot punish Satan. The reasons for Satan's accusations. There is theological dispute over whether Satan existed from the very outset. If he has, it is a big problem. If Satan had always existed, craftily defying and hindering God's providence of restoration for 6,000 years, who would be able to subjugate and eliminate him? That is the issue. Where did Satan come from? Some say that Satan has existed from the outset. If he were an original existence, who opposed the all-knowing and almighty God and caused our original ancestors to fall, then we could not expect complete salvation as long as Satan has existed. This would be dualism, and people would conclude that a world with two opposing purposes would continue forever. The original will for the ideal world of creation was never fulfilled due to the fall. However, since God has absolute authority, even though the whole world might change, he can never change. Even though the devil took Adam, Eve, and all creation away from God, the absolute being must subjugate Satan, who was originally an archangel, naturally rather than by force. Although God exists, it is as if he does not. He has to re-establish his absolute authority. God cannot strike first. The good God cannot strike the evil Satan. Why is the all-knowing and almighty God unable to wipe out Satan at one stroke? If he did so, that act would end up extinguishing Adam, Eve, and the creation, and destroying the ideal sphere of love as well. That is why he is prevented from doing so. The absolute Lord has the responsibility to absolutely fulfill what he said he would do. Despite Satan's fickleness, attacks, and tenacious persecution, the Lord God has endured throughout history in order to recover his established principles. Nobody has known this God. Why has the all-knowing, all-powerful, and absolute God been letting Satan infringe upon human beings? Why did he let people be sacrificed, crushed under Satan's foot? Why was he so unable to exercise his power that people could not recognize his existence? This is a serious problem. This is a serious question. The answer is that God has had no nation, no people, no tribe, and no family that he could govern. Furthermore, there has been no individual whose qualification he could officially recognize. If such an individual family, tribe, people, and sovereign nation are established, he will be able to govern the evil nations, peoples, tribes, families, and individuals. Only this way will lead to goodness, and only then will God have his authority. Can you conquer Satan? Wasn't even God, the King of Wisdom, immobilized due to Satan's accusation? It is the same for the president of a nation. When the citizens stage demonstration because of something you did, can you cut off their heads? Under certain conditions, even the all-knowing and almighty God cannot make a move. Even a government minister would be fired within a day were he found to be at fault. Hence you must protect yourselves against conditions for accusation. How you develop that protection is an extremely challenging problem in your life of faith. This is the life and death matter. The human race was connected to Satan's life and lineage, centered on his love. This is the problem. God cannot intervene or be present under their circumstances. Why has the all-knowing and almighty God seemed so incompetent throughout history? When Satan became the enemy, what did he take away? Satan deprived God of his love. Satan trampled on God's love, life, and lineage. We should always be aware of this fact. Satan was originally an archangel. He declares to God, even though I became Satan due to the fall, you should solve the problems according to the principles you set up because you are the omniscient, almighty, and absolute God. Although I violated the law and became Satan, you, the all-knowing, almighty, and absolute being, must work according to the laws you have laid down. Isn't that true? I am going to explain why we cannot proceed on our way without loving our enemy. It is very important for you to know this truth, although it is not written in the Divine Principle book. Although the archangel fell and accuses God, God must still observe the principles that he established, because he is God. God is the absolute being. Therefore, although the archangel had fallen, God is compelled to rule over his creation according to the principles and rules he laid down. God is always obliged to relate with the archangel in the same way, both before and after the fall. That is why Satan says to God, you are supposed to love me until the perfection period and beyond. Adam was supposed to have the three archangels under his command, and they were to obey and love him absolutely. As long as the heavenly law and principle that demand absolute obedience and submission remain, Satan cannot do as he pleases with that principle and law, even though he does not absolutely obey and submit to God. Satan himself knows that eventually he has to follow the same principle. God can remove him if he goes against the principle and law. It is like the president exercising his authority through the Constitution. If it is not in the Constitution, the president cannot do as he wishes. The founder of the Unification Church is a serious man. I have always dealt seriously with issues such as God's existence, and why the all-knowing and almighty God did not eliminate Satan at once. If you read the book of Job, you may ask how God can be so powerless. I had to understand all this, how serious I was to do so. I have placed my neck on the gallows and struggled for these truths at the risk of my life. We have to retrieve our original life. In the book of Job, God gave Satan all he asked for. Why? God cannot respond to Satan with the same behavior as the devil, because God is the essence of love for others, so God is the essence of truth. God does not subjugate Satan with his mysterious creative power. He makes Satan yield voluntarily. The devil has brought ruin to this world in order to prevent the world from returning to God. All this free sex and so on. How many people in America engage in incest? The father with 3 daughters sleeps with all of his daughters. There have been a number of such cases. With free sex, the father's brother sleeps with the mother, or a son sleeps with his mother. They are like animals. Thus Satan laughs at God, saying, God, do you think you can establish your ideal of creation and ideal of love under these circumstances? I got to the next chapter. Don't know if you want me to carry on.
You can stop there.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's all think about that reading. especially in the reference, a lot of references there, and Father also referenced the book of Job in this reading, and why God behaves the way he did. So as we close, first of all, I want to thank you all for attending today's gathering, and hopefully we will have another one next weekend. To close, I'd like to ask Kumye to lead us in a word of prayer. Kumye.
I was watching.
Okay.
Okay. Let's pray. Our dearest Heavenly Father and true parents, Heavenly Father, I'd like to thank you for you guide us in these critical circumstances, and please guide us and protect us continuously, all our sanctuary members, centering on Second King Hyungjin's family. Heavenly Father, and really glad to see brothers to having this Sunday service, and I wish them to keep their healthy until we meet again. Heavenly Father, I'd like to pray all this in the name of a community of essential and blessed family, or on all our names as well. Amen.
Adieu.
Adieu.
Adieu. Thank you, brothers and sisters, and wishing you a great week. God be with all of you. Be careful.
Bye. Take care. Bye.
Remember your masks. Remember your masks, and be very careful.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Pastor Jacob.
Yeah.
God bless you all.